Hi all, hope you're doing good. I'm Dr. Bhargavi. I am Associate Professor in the Department of Management Studies in Bharat University. In the last class, we saw about different concepts of OB. We saw what is the meaning of an organization. We saw what does behavior mean, and in the combination, we saw about the definition of organizational behavior. We saw concepts like the nature and scope of OB and the different theories that contributed to the development of organizational behavior. And we concluded with the emerging issues in the field of organizational behavior. So in today's session, we'll be seeing about the individual process elements of organizational behavior. The first concept is personality. What do you mean by personality? What do you infer by personality? We know that personality is a Latin term, so it is going to infer of speaking through. So it is a sum of traits that an individual is going to possess, and he's going to exhibit these traits in the required environment. So Hollander has given the definition of personality as a sum total of an individual's characteristics that make humans unique. We know now that personality is going to refer to the qualities of the individual and the characteristics of an individual which is going to make them unique. Now, this personality traits also include the feelings, it is going to include the thoughts and the behavior patterns of individuals. It may change from a period of time to time. We know that a child will not have dominant personality traits. It will keep changing his behavior. Similarly, mature people who have experienced different situations in life, they would have a stable personality being exhibited at workplace. So personality traits may change relatively from time to time. Then the next slide talks about different theories of personality. We have four main theories. The first one is psychoanalytic theory, the second one is self theory, the third one is socio-psychological theory, and the fourth one is trait theory. Now, coming to the psychoanalytic theory, we know that psychoanalytic theory has been developed by Sigmund Freud. And not only Sigmund Freud, several scientists, several psychologists, they contribute to the development of psychoanalytic theory. Carl Jung, Alfred Adler, Horney and Fromm, so all these people contributed to the development of personality theories. And psychoanalytic theory is based on the idea that a human is motivated both by unseen forces and seen forces. Psychoanalytic theory stresses on the concept that humans are also motivated by unseen forces, the intangible forces, than thoughts or conscience. This theory propounds that the major motivating force in a man is his unconscious framework. The subconscious mind will play an important role in the psychoanalytic theory. So this theory consisted of three major concepts. The first or the three major elements of psychoanalytic theory are ID, ego and superego. So, what is ID or what is ego or what is superego? ID is the act, is the driving force, and it is going to be the important source for thinking and behaving. So when an individual is in the stage of ID, then he will require this instant seekingness. He seeks everything to happen instantly, so that instant doing of things or instant seeking of things is happening in the ID stage. So ID is going to act as a driving force, and it is going to be the important source for thoughts and behaviors in an individual. So this ID is going to be a source of psychic energy, something that happens within yourself, and it is going to progress over a period of time. So as individuals mature, as individuals have a stable thinking process, then they learn to control this ID, because you know that ID is going to be something that is going to seek for instantness. So once people mature, they learn to control their thoughts and they learn to overcome ID. So ID is that part of personality that is present by birth inside the individual. So this can be inherited or it can be primitive. And you know, this aspect of ID is going to seek pleasure and it avoids pain. So I want this thing to happen right now. I want this thing to conquer right now. So that thing, that instantness is sought by the force of ID. Then the second concept is ego. So ego is going to be the conscious part of the human brain, and it is going to form the logical aspect of the personality. So ego is going to involve the rational thinking. It is going to involve the realistic part of the personality, and this ego develops from the base, that is ID, and it draws its energy from ID. So while ID is going to represent the instant seekingness, ego is going to be more of a matured behavior, where ego is going to just represent the denial or postponing to a more appropriate time and place. So I'll first think, as a matured person, I think whether this is required. I think this is going, whether it is perfect, if it is going to happen right now. So I'll think whether this has to be done immediately or it can be done in a later part of time. So I'm going to think and I'm going to analyze. I'm going to have a rational thinking process, and then I'm going to take a decision. So that is going to be represented by the second element, that is ego. Then the third element is called superego. What does superego infer, or what is the difference between ego and superego? So superego is going to be the moral component of personality, that ethical behavior which is inhibited in humans. So we tend to differentiate what is right, what is wrong, and we think that this will not fall under our moral value. So why should we do it? So that instinct, that voice of the heart which says that this is wrong, that can be inferred as superego. So superego is going to represent the social and personal norms and ethics on the behavior of human beings, and it is going to be the conscience of an individual, the voice, the inner voice of an individual, that is going to guide him from choosing what is right and what is wrong. So the next theory under personality is socio-psychological theory. So what does socio-psychological theory mean? This theory is going to recognize the interdependence of individual and society. So for an individual to form right from his childhood, from his transition from childhood to matured phase, this role of society plays a very key part. So individuals, they strive to meet the needs of the society, and the society helps the individuals to attain their goals. So there is going to be an interdependence of individuals and society on each other. So managers at organizations, they can take a clue from this theory to shape the behavior of employees. Then the third theory that is going to contribute to personality is trait theory. you know what are traits? Traits or attributes. They can be the qualities or the characteristics exhibited by individuals. So, trait theory is going to postulate that individual's personality consists of three different attributes. So, this theory states that the personality of an individual will have three basic assumptions. What are they? The first one is that traits are common to individuals and they vary in absolute amounts between different individuals. What does this mean? We know that each one of us will have some level of jolly mindedness. We will have some moderate amount of aggression. We will have some amount of temper inside us. So each one of us will be of a different nature. I may be a jolly minded person, you may be an aggressive person, my colleague may be a very friendly person, a very sensitive person. So each one of us have some dominant trait or the other inside us. This is the first tenet of trait theory. And the second tenet says that traits are relatively stable irrespective of the environmental situation. So, irrespective of the situations or irrespective of the environment present inside the organization, individuals exhibit their dominant traits. So, for example, I said you that I am a very jolly minded person. So, whatever may be the troubles that occur at the workplace, I may still be a jolly minded person at work. So, I may not, exhibit any other trait which is not dominant in me. So, that is the second assumption. Then, the third assumption is traits can be inferred from measuring behavioral indicators. So you have different questionnaires, research instruments for measuring the personality traits of individuals. So this third assumption says that traits can be inferred from these kind of questionnaires. So if I'm able to distribute a research instrument to a group of people to measure their dominant personality traits, then keeping in mind the options they choose, I'll be able to measure the personality of individuals. So these are the three assumptions under trait theory. Then the fourth one is self theory. What does self theory mean? Self means me. Yes, an individual aspect is called as self. Now, the self theory was given by Carl Rogers, and this is the most consistent concept ever that has been formed under the personality concept. So, this Carl Rogers, he developed self theory based on I versus me. So it has four factors, or it has four constituents under self theory. The first one is self image. Self image. Now, self image is something. It is the way in which an individual wants to see himself. Okay, so see, I perceive myself to be a very jolly person. I perceive myself to be very work committed person. I perceive myself to be a workaholic. So the way in which I see myself can be called as self image. Then the primary key or the prime aspect here is self recognition, which means I understand myself, I recognize myself that these are the things I have inside me, and these are my behaviors which I will exhibit at different times. So I recognize myself, and I have some belief about myself that if I take a work, I will complete it on time. If I take a work, I will finish it completely and submit it to my superior. If I, decide on something, I will stick on to that decision. I will not change my decisions from time to time. So that is a belief that I have about myself. So under self-image, every individual will have certain beliefs about himself, and that is how he perceives himself to be. Then the second constituent under self theory is ideal self. What is ideal self? Ideal self is the position where I wish I was like this, and I'm trying to change myself to be that ideal or a desired person. So it is a way in which an individual wants to be or an individual likes to be. So it indicates that reality of a person, while this person, he perceives that this is the ideal situation, or this is the ideal, this is the desired position I want to be, and he transforms inside to become that ideal person which he has in mind. So for example, let us say that I take up a resolution that I want to be punctual at work. So, even though I have different factors to come to work, that like it's going to take a long time to commute, or it is going to take a long route to commute. So, I have different factors that influence the time I log into work. But still, I have a resolution that I should be punctual. So, this punctuality is the desired concept. I desire to be punctual to work, so I put up that level of efforts to be punctual at work. So this is something which I desire, and I transform myself to come to that desired position. That's called as ideal self. Then the next one is looking glass self. What does looking glass self mean? It is the way in which an individual perceives how other people look at him. So, I may have a perception about people who come and talk to me. Similarly, the others, the people who come and talk to me, will also have a perception about. They may think me to be a very humorous person. They may think me to be a very aggressive person. They may think me to be a short-tempered person. So, glass self is something where how people look at me is what I wonder. So it is one's view of me, and it emerges from face to face conversations. It develops from the face to face interactions between individuals right from the beginning. Then the fourth element of self theory is real self. What is real self? Real means truth. So it is what really one is in nature. So a person's image under real self is confirmed when other people's response to him is going to correlate with his beliefs. So I think that I am a very humorous person. So if my colleague also perceives me to be a humorous person, then they correspond in the following way, or in the same manner. So they recognize me to be a humorous person, and I am really a humorous person. So if there's going to be a correlation between these both, then that is called as the real self. Next slide talks about factors influencing personality. So we have four different factors, namely the biological factors, the family and social factors, the cultural factors, and the situational factors. Now, under biological factors, we have hereditary, we have brain, we have the physical features. So what do these biological factors constitute, or what do they infer? The personality traits exhibited by individuals may be because of their biological factors. So, a part of the individual's personality will be inherited from their parents. So, these elements of personality, like the physical features we saw, the physical features like appearance or height, how tall I am, how much do I weigh, and what color am I, or what is the structure of my body. So all these will constitute under biological factors. Then the second factor that is going to influence personality is family and social factors. Under this you have again three elements, which is the home environment, which is the family members support, and the social groups. So under and social factors. We know that the beliefs or the values inside an individual, they are shaped by the family environment. So a child which is growing from its infancy to the mature phase, it is it is influenced by the role of family members. So family members play a very dominant role in shaping the behavior of individuals. So parents and family members, they serve as a role models to their children, and they influence the children to exhibit certain traits because of their role. So the child learns to accept things or to deny certain things based on the growing up, or based on the influence of the family members it deals with. So if the parents are polite, if the parents are humble, then the child will exhibit similar kind of traits. Similarly, if the parents are very harsh, or if the parents are very arrogant, then these similar qualities will be exhibited by the child also. So family and social factors are one of the prime constituents that influence personality traits. Then the third one is cultural factors. What do cultural factors consist of? They consist of values, they consist of morals, they consist of ethics. So culture is something that is going to be the total of values, or the total of beliefs, or the total of perceptions which a person has. So culture is going to influence the type of behavior inside an individual. So culture may consist of the symbols, or the languages spoken, or the family systems prevalent, or the religion followed, the festivals, the dresses worn by individuals. All these that has been followed from the ancestors, that has been brought down to this time, constitutes culture. So each society will have a different culture. Each people who come to work will come from a different cultural background. So culture is one of the dominant factors that is going to influence personality traits of individuals. Then the last factor is situational factors. What do situational factors mean? So situational factors have this push or pull effect while exhibiting a certain behavior. So situational factors plays an important role in determining the personality of an individual. A person's personality can change according to the needs of the situation. So different situations bring different aspects of personality from individuals. So for example, if I am working in a very pressurized environment, if I am put up with a lot of tasks to complete, and if I work under stress, then my way of approaching, or my traits that get exhibited to the different colleagues will be varying in nature. So situations that occur at the workplace may influence the individual to exhibit necessary traits and necessary characteristics alongside. So these are the different factors that influence the personality of individuals. Then we have the next slide that talks about the different types of personality. So what are the different personality types? We have the Jungian type, we have the Freeman type, we have the Holland type. So, what does the Jungian type infer? This Jungian type personality was developed by Carl Jung, who propounded a theory of psychological types to categorize people in these or under these elements. So Jungian type had four elements, that is sensing, intuition, thinking, and feeling. Now we know that when a person starts sensing things, when the person starts observing his environment, he starts sensing things. So he gets the stimuli of what is happening in the environment, and then his intuition plays a role about how he should perceive this. So once he starts sensing the things that happen around him, he starts getting this institution of how he should perceive these sensory things. Then he starts to think about it. So after the intuition, the thought process begins. So individuals, they tend to start thinking, and then they start feeling. So this constituents are coming under the Jungian type. Then Friedman type. What did Freeman say? Freeman propounded two types of personality. The first one is type A and the second one is type B. Now type A and type B personalities are opposite personalities. So type A personalities are driven by motivation. They have always this need to achieve something. Whereas the type A personalities, they are competitive. They are very aggressive in nature. They always have this need for achieving something, and they would like to achieve more and more in less time and with less efforts. So type A personality people, they are always active, and they complete their activities and tasks very quickly, and they are impatient when things slow down. When things don't happen within a span of time, they become annoying. So they can't cope with leisure. They will not be at peace at all. They'll always be restless at work. So these are the type A personality individuals. Whereas the type B people are, they are the opposites. They are not driven by any desires. They don't have interest in doing any sort of things. They are well laid back, and they are very slow paced in nature. So type B personalities, they have a relaxed mindset. They have a very lazy approach towards work, and they don't have the sense of urgency inside them to complete any task, and they don't discuss their achievements unless and until it is very required. So they can relax without having any guilt inside them. So these are the two types of personalities, type A and type B personalities, which was propounded by Freeman. Now Holland type, the last type of personality is Holland type, where Holland stressed that by understanding the personality of a person, his suitability to the organization can be found. So the job fit and the individual fit can be examined. This is what Holland propounded. So if there is going to be a proper matching of the personality with the job, then the job satisfaction of individuals will be high. Similarly, this would also result in better retention of employees. So Holland identified 6 personality types, and these are called as the realistic personalities, investigative personalities, artistic personalities, social personality, enterprising personality, and conventional personality. So he stated that this intention to leave a job depends on the fit between personality of an individual and the job he does. So he developed a very vocational reference inventory questionnaire that had around 160 items, and this was made to be filled by the respondents, which indicated their occupations and their job roles, what kind of jobs and what kind of personalities people had. So this is regarding the personality types. So we have 3 personality types: Jungian type, the Freeman type, and the Holland type. The next slide which we talk about is personality traits affecting behavior of individuals. So we have 2 types of traits that affect the work behaviors. The first one is big 5 factors, and the second one is other factors. So we know this big 5 factors to a great extent. Many of us would have heard about the ocean model, which was popularized before a few decades. So The Big Five model consisted of agreeableness, it consisted of conscientiousness, it consisted of emotional stability, then it consisted of extraversion and openness. Now, what is extraversion? Extraversion is, it is the extent to which a person is outgoing, it is the extent to which individuals are talkative, the extent to which people mingle in a group. So all these can be called as extraversion. So extroverts are people who are assertive, they are social, they are very outgoing in nature, and they enjoy company of others. So they are very successful in building the relationships, and they love to interact with people and discuss things. So these kind of people can be called as extroverts. Then agreeableness. What is agreeableness? It refers to the person's ability to move along with others, to agree with others' point of view and to move along with them. So agreeable people, they are sensitive at heart and they are very tolerant, they are kind and highly trustable. So these people are very good team players. They come up and they willingly help other people to complete their day-to-day task. So these people, they tend to avoid conflicts since they have a good level of agreeableness inside them. They don't want conflicts to occur inside a workplace, so they try to create a very balanced work environment. Then the next trait under the Big Five model is conscientiousness. What does conscientiousness mean? It is going to be the measure of reliability. So a conscientious person or a reliable person can be dependable. You can trust on him, you can expect him to be punctual, you can expect him to be very systematic and organized in whatever things they do. So these people are highly organized and they have achievement orientedness inside them. So they have high level of motivation inside them to perform any task that comes their way. And these people, these conscientious people can be seen as entrepreneurs who have this trait, this dominant trait inside them. Then the next trait is emotional stability. So emotional stability or the lack of emotional stability can also be called as the neuroticism. So it indicates a person's capacity to withstand and cope with stress. So emotional stability can also be referred as a resilience of an individual to bounce back from adversities. So people with good emotional stability, they are calm, they are secured, and they are very confident in things they do. And they seek advice from others, and they build good relationships. So these emotionally stable people, they are better achievers. They plan and they go for achieving, so they are able to achieve success easily since because of their emotional intelligence. Then the last trait is openness to experience. So what is openness to experience? People who are open to any kind of experiences, they are intellectual, they are very curious, and they are very creative and open to ideas. So they are very flexible, they don't have rigidness inside them, they are not reluctant to change. So these people, they seek feedback from others and they are interested in learning new things. So they are very highly successful in the workplace. So people who are open to any kind of experiences face they tend to be flexible and they are ready to adapt to the environment which requires them. So these are the different traits under the Big Five model. So apart from the Big Five model, you also have other factors like the self-evaluation, monitoring, grit, risk propensity, narcissism, ambiguity, tolerance, and locus of control. So all these factors are going to play a dominant role in affecting the behavior. So with this, we come to the end of today's session. I hope you all were able to sail in the same ship as me. So thank you for staying connected and watching this video. Stay safe. Take care. Bye.